We got the MLB Home Run Derby. Tyson, what do you think?
Oh well, you looking at it's a pretty good field this year. Not as many home runs from the contestants as the last few years. Missing a couple big names in this: Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, Mike Trout. A couple big name guys are gone. But other than that, the field looks really good. Happy to see two Cubbies in there, looking sharp. Both 17 and 18 for Schwarber and Baez. But it's looking like we've got a decent chance the Cubs do taking home a little bit of hardware this year, coming on opposite sides of the field. The one matchup I'm really excited for, though, not because it's a Cubs matchup, is Max Muncy and Javi Baez. Muncy's got a .614 slug percentage. He's only had 210 at-bats, and he's got 21 home runs. Now, Baez has a .559 slugging percentage, but he's had 329 at-bats and 18 home runs. So he's over 100 at-bats more and 3 home runs less, but we all know Baez can swing that bat. So that one's going to be a good matchup for me. Javi's hitting it really well right now. Muncy hitting, he's got the second best slugging percentage in the field right now behind Jesus Aguilar with a .638 slug. So that's the matchup I'm really excited for. If I had to make my predictions, I'm saying Aguilar beats Hoskins in the first round. I got Schwarber over Alex Bregman. I got Harper beating Freddie Freeman in a close one, and Baez over Muncy. And then in the second round, I took Schwarber over Aguilar in an upset, beating the top seed, and Baez going down to Harper, and I've got Harper beating Schwarber to round it out.
So, real quick, there's a lot of controversy that rolls around this home run derby. There's people that say this home run derby shouldn't exist because it alters people's swings for the second half of the year, or the fact, because there's one thing, the home run derby's out there for people just to absolutely demolish balls, and we know that. The home run derby is amazing to watch. Now, whether that alters people's swings or not, it doesn't matter. The home run derby's out there just to relieve some stress and to have some fun. That's all it's for. So I just kind of wanted to get your guys' opinions on this because there's a lot of different ones. Should this home run derby exist?
I can tell you whose swing it won't alter, and that's Javi Baez, because that dude swings for the fence every time he swings anyway. But I don't see it that way. It might, but then again, we're halfway through the season. These dudes have already played 80 games or more. It's a great way for some of these guys to just blow off some steam, for the fans to just see some cool hits. I don't really have a problem with it. If it alters their swing, that's their own problem. They can always change it back. They got batting coaches for a reason. So I don't think it's too big of a deal. What's your thoughts, Gav?
No, I wouldn't say it's a big deal either. I mean, I look at this like I would like the NHL Skills Challenge or the NBA Dunk Contest. It's just something fun. It's for the fans. It draws in revenue, you know, and that's when you come down to us, professional sports is, right? It's a business. They want to make the money. And how do you make money? You keep what's been a tradition for how many years now, and yes, there's always the complaints of like, oh, well, we don't want the players hurting themselves. We don't want them overdoing it. We don't want them altering anything they've been doing the entire season, right? Mm-hmm. But, I mean, with that said, really, how bad can it be? How bad can it be? I mean, you go and even if you win the whole thing, you only have to do it 3 times.
Right. And they changed the formatting as well.
Right.
Absolutely. So it's a lot less swings now. It used to be you swung in the first round that you had 10 outs.
Right.
Now you don't do that anymore. It's like, you get a minimum of like 15 or 20 swings or something. I can't remember the exact formatting, but remember back in the day when me and you were kids, all of us were kids, it used to be 10 outs. So now that they've kind of upped those out or lowered those outs a little bit, it's a little bit easier on that swing and that body, so that way there's not near as much rotation, gyration, anything you want to talk about.
Right.
So, I don't know. I agree with you guys. There's a whole lot of perspective that goes into it. These people that say that this home run derby is nothing but a cancer essentially are wrong.
Well, and I want to touch on that is I think it comes down to all of the trainers and the fitness freaks and nutritionists and all the stuff that say you already go through 162 games in a season. Why put yourself through this again? When I look at it as you're putting yourself through maybe 2 or 3 more games doing this home run derby, depending on how many times you take a swing at the ball, right? So if you already play 162, what's 165? 166 games, you know?
Exactly.
And it's really a head scratcher to me. I can see where they're coming from, but it shouldn't be to the point where, you know, you just get rid of it. I mean, it's fun, right? At the end of the day, it's fun.
Well, and this can't really be bad for the league. It's 8 guys. You know how many guys there are on MLB rosters throughout the league? A lot more than 8. So saying this is bad for the league, it might be bad for those 8 guys, but then again, I just don't really see it. And at the end of the day, you got to give the fans what they want. I know a lot of people that don't watch baseball that tune in for the home run derby. You're taking baseball's most exciting thing and putting it all in once for a couple hours at a time and just letting guys launch home runs. So at the end of the day, you got to give the fans what they want to see. You got to get those home runs out there. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yep. So
exactly.
Stick with the home run derby.
And if it's not just 8 guys. I mean, these are 8 of the top 15 hitters in baseball, you know. And that may be a stretch for some people. Some people may want to argue that, but just, you know, as a generalization, that's what they're doing here. It's not just, you know, taking random people up to the plate and having them try to hit home runs. These guys want to hit the ball. They want to hit it 400, 450 feet, you know, every single time they get up there.
So for me, Tyson already went with his prediction. I got Schwarber beating Harper in the final round as well.
So we got to the final 2 together, though.
Yeah, but I got Schwarber winning the whole thing. Javi, I feel like he's going to give Muncy a run for his money. Max Muncy, I've never really heard of him much before until this season. Javi, everybody's heard of Javier Baez. Jesus Aguilar, though, he can swing a big stick. He can up there and he can hit some moonshots. So I'm kind of excited about that. Jesus Aguilar and Royce Hoskins, matchup. Those guys are some pretty heavy hitters as well. But like you said, I would like to see Stanton and Judge in it, even though if one of those 2 guys or even both of them were in it, we know who would win. But minus Harper or Trout, though, because I feel like Harper or Trout could give them guys a challenge. But, you know, those are the 2 best home run hitters in the league. You can't deny that fact. So the fact that they're not in it is kind of like going back to the NBA All-Star contest as well with the dunk contest. You got guys like LeBron or Westbrook that we want to see in there that aren't in it.
Right.
So I wouldn't mind watching Westbrook in a dunk contest.
Oh, absolutely.
That's something for another day. But, you know, watching the 2 best hitters in the league, essentially, when it comes to home runs, would have been a lot more interesting to see. But I'm not really all that upset that they're not in it. Give them a break. You know, we'll just have to see what they do in the second half of the season.
I had Aguilar and Harper in the finals, and that's no disrespect to the Cubs players that are in this or anyone else for that matter. I think everyone that's in this competition is well deserved, but I had Aguilar winning it over Harper just because Harper's been underperforming this year, and that Aguilar has, I mean, probably a top 5 swing in baseball. So
I was actually going to comment on Bryce Harper. I picked him to win it, but he actually has the lowest slugging percentage in the field of the home run derby this year at .468. That is the lowest of all the 8 guys in it. He does have the second most home runs, but he hasn't really been hitting the ball well this year. He hasn't been hitting it more often than not. It just so happens that when he does make contact, it goes over the fence. That is an interesting pick. I can respect that. Aguilar's got almost a 200% or two full points better than Harper in that slugging percentage category.
Well, one thing is you've been touching on the past couple of weeks, both of you actually, is that Harper has not been putting up Bryce Harper numbers like he has in the past.
It goes back to the whole left-handed power hitter thing with that extreme exaggerated shift. You know, that plays with your psyche because you know when you go up to bat, you step in that batter's box up the on-deck circle, and you see these guys just start walking over to the other side of the right side of the field. You got your second baseman clear back and playing shallow right center. You got your third baseman right behind second base and your shortstop. Who knows where your shortstop's at? But you got this exaggerated shift that happens. So that goes up and that messes with your head. That messes with your psyche. You cannot hit a ball, you know, that hard.
A lot of dudes to look at.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick a spot to put it.
And you know, as a left-handed power hitter, most of the guys are not going to hit the ball to the left side of the field. It's just not going to happen because that's not what they do. So, in my opinion, to get Bryce Harper out of this little slump he's in and get his head back in, not to look at this shift the way he's looking at it, lay down a bunt to the third base line like Kyle Schwarber does. He's done it 3 times this year to beat that shift. So, it may not be the best thing. You don't want to see a guy like Bryce Harper laying down bunts all the time.
Right.
But it gets you on base, gets you that on-base percentage up, your batting average up, and your slugging percentage up. So it's just a little cheap, easy way, going back to old-fashioned baseball to beat that exaggerated shift.
I think it's like you said, it comes down to a mental thing. And Harper, he's not going up to the plate like, I'm not going to bunt. I'm not going to lay down a bunt,
And right. Maybe if he had that mentality a little bit more, he'd be like, okay, well, these guys are going to shift on me. I'm going to play old-fashioned baseball, and I'm going to beat these guys.
Right.
Lay down a bunt to that third base side of that pitcher. You can force that pitcher to make a play. And the pitchers, as we all know, don't want to make plays if they don't have to.
Right.
So if Harper could get that out of his head, the fact that he could beat that shift somehow, then he would be back to normal Bryce Harper standards.
Absolutely.
Teach him to switch hit.
I think it's a little too late to teach him to switch hit. But
Yeah.
So let's move on a little bit. The Yankees.
Oh, yeah.
The Yankees, the New York Yankees. Oh, the New York Yankees. The fact that they've made the strongest offer for Manny Machado.
Always sticking their nose in everything.
I feel like he's going to go to New York as well, because I feel like anybody in the NL would have to give up way too much. The Yankees can afford it. My question is that I have for Tyson and Gavin is, what are they going to do with Didi Gregorius? I can't pronounce his last name. Gregorius, thank you. What are they going to do with him? He's not a slouch of a shortstop, but Manny Machado is also 3 times the player.
My one thing is they don't really need Machado. No. Machado's a great player.
Yeah.
It would be amazing to have him, but Didi's not playing bad. He's batting .260. He's got 16 home runs, 49 RBIs, 10 stolen bags this year, and he's 2.5 in the WAR category. Wins above replacement.
That's pretty good.
He's playing well. So I don't really know why they would want to just kick him to the curb, get out of here. So there's not really anything to do with him, unless you want to move Machado to third and keep Didi at short. But I don't know. And my other thing is, why would the Orioles trade their best player to a division rival?
To know that they're going to seal a World Series title with that.
Right.
Another one.
Yeah. So that one's still I'm trying to wrap my head around that too. I'm sure Machado would love to go to the Yankees.
Oh yeah.
He would love it.
Oh yeah.
Hell, he'd probably sign another deal and stay there for 10 years. But I just don't have. I don't think the Orioles would love it as much as the Yankees would and Machado would, because they're going to be hurting for years to come if they make that trade.
I'm wondering if the Yankees are doing this in spite of Machado going to the Brewers or the Cubs, knowing that the Yankees have the potential to reach the World Series and don't want to go up against him in the World Series, knowing that they could have had him.
That's a good point. They're just soaking up all the best free agents there are out there,
Which
so
is
that way they can't get to the National League.
Exactly. That's the New York way to do it.
Because they've already got to beat Boston.
Right.
You got to think about that. They've already got to beat Boston out in the regular season title.
But we've seen them already this season more than capable of doing so.
Yeah.
Even though the Red Sox, I believe we talked about this before we started today's show, they've got to be the best team in baseball right now.
Oh, yeah.
I know I tried to argue that last week with you, and you know what? I got to come around and say it hands down. I don't know who right now can beat this team.
The Yankees. That's it.
Right.
And Yankees and possibly the Astros are the only 2 teams in this league that can beat. The Cubs wouldn't stand a chance against the Yankees. I don't feel like they'd have the bullpen.
Take it back.
I'm being a realist. As big as a Cubs fan as I am, I'm being a realist. I don't think we have the bullpen strength to beat the Yankees. That's the only reason, because our starting pitching sure as hell ain't going to beat the Yankees, except for one guy, and that'd be John Lester. But because
they have been coming around though. Quintana put up a good outing. Shutout for his outing. Hendricks put up a good outing. So they have been coming around. Now I know that's a small sample. They've all had one good game in a row now.
Right, but that's a start.
Right, if
they can continue that to the end of the year where they have to play the Yankees, they're in a really good position. But they have to get there first.
Yeah, we still got a long way to go.
Well, that, and it's going to come down to the All-Star game, unfortunately. If the National League can clinch that victory for the World Series, if the Cubs make it there, I think playing at Wrigley, even though when they won it in 2016, it really wasn't that big of a factor being down 3-1, right?
No, not with Wrigley Field.
But the comeback was real.
Yes.
Okay. I think with New York, it's a different thing, because Cleveland, we know how they are fans, their fans how their fans feel about their team, right?
We know everybody in Cleveland blows 3-1 leads. So.
Absolutely.
Or gets swept.
Or that too. But what I'm trying to say is Cleveland fans, they love their team because we've seen it with the Cavs. LeBron being there. We've even seen it with the Cleveland Browns. Their team has been trash for the past 2 decades, but they show up all the time.
Yep.
Right?
Welcome to the dog pound.
Browns going 9-7.
We'll save that for a different day. But the point I'm trying to make is New York fans, they're kind of flaky. They're Yankees fans to be Yankees fans. And I think if the Cubs are able to have home field advantage and they make it that far, and let's say they even acquire Machado somehow. We know that they're not in the top tier to compete with getting Machado in a deal, but if they were to acquire him and it was that team versus the Yankees as currently constructed, I think they've got a more than a great chance to win.
I agree with you.
Even without Machado, I think they have a chance to win.
Except for one thing. Outside of the Bronx, they're fair weather fans. Inside the Bronx, they're super fans, just like we are the Cubs.
Right. I got to give them that.
You got to look around. You got all of these, even in Illinois, and I'm going to use an example, being a Blue Jays fan.
Right.
At least you can back up everything you say with stats. You walk around with all these people wearing Yankees gear.
And they couldn't tell you.
Ask them anybody that plays for them besides Derek Jeter or A-Rod.
Yeah.
They can't name
They have
anybody.
no idea.
So they're fair weather fans. They're only going to watch when they're in the playoffs and being in the World Series. Like right now, they're probably watching every game. But I understand there are some people, that do really care about the Yankees. And if you do, I don't really understand why, other than you hopped on the bandwagon. That's about it.
That's for me. Is anyone outside of New York, if you're a Yankee fan,
outside of the Bronx,
right? Yeah, for not even the entire state.
Wrong.
If you can't name, at least a couple players on this team currently, it's more of a detriment to like what we have to deal with as sports fans and just the bandwagons upon bandwagons.
It's like all
upon
these
bandwagons.
Golden State fans out here.
Yeah,
absolutely. And every sport has it. Sport has it.
We have no business having any Golden State fans in Champaign, Illinois, unless they're from that area.
Yeah.
Amen.
So, but anyway, going back off of that, the Yankees, I feel like, are going to have the best chance of winning the World Series, but baseball is baseball.
Yes.
You never know what's going to happen. It can shift. It all depends on who gets hot and when at the right time, and the Cubs are heating up. Not only the Cubs are heating up, the Brewers are slowing down, so that's a good thing for us.
Like you gentlemen called 3 weeks ago. This
happens every year.
This would happen. Absolutely.
Come time for the break, they'll slow down to the break, and then they'll drop.
Shout out White Sox beating the Cardinals, helping us out.
Yeah.
Go Chicago teams.
That's something that I wanted to touch on is the Cardinals. They always seem to bounce back whenever they play the White Sox, and they did in their first game, and they put up 14 runs.
Yes.
But the second game, they completely flip-flopped and fell apart against probably a top 3 worst team in baseball. What happened?
They're the top 3 of the bottom quarter, so let's just go with that. Tyson, I want to get your take on this. Since they did put up 14 runs against the White Sox, do you think that kind of just quieted the bats for Game 2, and that's why they didn't have a runner cross second base until the 6th inning? I was at work and I was listening to that game on the radio. I was just trying to figure out what in the heck the Cards were doing. They just couldn't hit the ball. So do you feel like that when you put up that many hits in one game, do you come back the next night? Do you feel like that could hinder a player's performance?
Well, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say exactly that. They ran out of juice. They used up all the sauce in the first game, and they had no more for the second one. Now, that's not always the case. We saw the Cubs put up over 10 runs 4 games straight a couple weeks ago. But for this Cardinals team, for who they've got, and their manager making the calls he's making, doing what he's doing, I think that's exactly what happened. I think they ran out of juice. They were either tired or just weren't seeing the ball very well, but they've definitely had issues in that second game, and I think you nailed it on the head.
So real quick, about the Cardinals organization, I don't know, have you guys seen anything about what's going on inside that clubhouse?
I haven't been following anything after Dexter Fowler fired back with his comments.
Well, there's some other stuff going on inside that clubhouse now. This was a report posted from The Athletic that I actually heard on Tay and Carp the other day, stating that Mike Matheny and Dexter Fowler haven't talked since he's gotten there. It's been a year and a half, boys.
Holy
wow.
cow.
So they've talked in passing, but that's about it. They haven't sat down and had a meeting or anything. And the Mozeliak, the whole John Mozeliak, the comments, he was the person, their GM was the person that backed him the most, Dexter Fowler.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you got your guy that's backing you the whole time and coming out saying those comments about you, I just don't understand it. There's so much separation and so much controversy in that Cardinals clubhouse right now that, man, you can't pin everything on Matheny at this point, even though that's what everybody wants to do.
Sure
You
can try, though.
You can try. You can pin everything on your manager because he's just there. He's the public face. So, but man, most of this stuff you can't pin on Matheny. You got to pin it up top, but also at the same time, Matheny's got to do a lot better job than not talking to one of his outstanding star players for a year and a half.
The organization, it seems, they're trying to tear themselves apart from the inside. Yeah. Every day we hear something new, and it's just not good. Something new every day.
Apparently, this whole Bud Norris thing now that came out, Bud Norris stating that, or Mike Matheny wanted him to go out and be in the bullpen or in the dugout and try to just find all of these issues that everybody, or things that everybody's saying about, Matheny or the front office. So that's just, I don't understand.
Well, I think this is the biggest issue, is that if we look at history and teams that have done this in the past, teams that have had internal issues, not just in the locker room, but front office and other things like that, is they've been unsuccessful. No one has ever been successful with toxicity in that kind of environment. So, especially, you don't want to see this coming from a team that's 5.5 games consistently out of second place in the NL Central, right? That's not how you get things done. So it looks like the Cardinals, like you said, are kind of unraveling here, and this is the beginning of the end of their season right now.
Yeah. You got anything?
Well, one thing I wanted to touch on. No, you're fine. Just real quick, I want to say thank you, Milwaukee Brewers, for losing to Pittsburgh. Thank you, Pirates.
Yes.
That really helped out the Cubs. They're only one game back right now. Like you said, the Cubs are going to start gaining here, and I would not be surprised if after the All-Star break, if in the next couple of weeks they have a game and a half lead over the Brewers.
They got the Padres this weekend, I believe.
Right, so. Last place in the NL West. Yep. So that'll definitely help them out if they can do what they're supposed to do, take care of business.
Pull out the brooms.
Right. Go ahead, Tyson.
Well, and as these playoff races start to heat up a little bit, as we move past the All-Star break, I don't necessarily think it's going to be that the Cubs are taking off. I think they'll keep performing as they've been performing. They might even go up a step, but I don't think they're going to jump 5 steps up the stairs. I really think they're going to take command of first place, not because they're playing super great, but because the Brewers and Cards are going to tank and just fall off. I think within a few weeks we'll see Brewers and the Cards each 5 games behind at least.
So going off of that real quick, there's a couple things on our show notes we want to talk about, and what you just said there ties in perfectly. The Cubs have kept themselves in it without 2 key players, and that's the Brizzo Souvenir Corps. They haven't had KB. He's been hurt for the last, 2-3 weeks. Yep. Been on the DL. He's back. He came back, hit a 2-run bomb, so that's a good thing.
Off of Johnny Cueto, who's an ace on just about any team.
Any team in the National League, except for maybe 2. But he hit a bomb off of Johnny Cueto. Not only was it a bomb, it was a 2-run bomb. Good that he was back. Good he got a big league home run because he was crushing that game down in Double-A.
And that's exactly what you wanted to see from him coming back off of a scary injury,
He was 0-1, and he just came out and just let it fly.
And he took 2 walks. So not only is he coming back and hitting well, but he's being patient and seeing the ball well at the plate.
If you guys notice, KB's swing, since he's so long and so lanky, he's going to have some shoulder issues. He's got a wide, long swing. But, he's 6'4", so he's got a long wingspan and a lot of bat to carry through there. But he's also playing 162. Potentially in 2016, he played 182 games. So these guys playing all these games every year, with a minimal rest, that's going to affect your body and wear it down no matter how old you are, only being 24, 25. So, you got to expect that. But one key player, too, that they're missing out is Rizzo. And it's not because he's hurt. He had a little bit of a stint on the DL, but he just is not swinging the bat. He's swinging the bat, making solid contact. He's just hitting it right at the player. And he's battling the same thing that Bryce Harper is with that exaggerated shift. So, Tyson, what do you think about the Cubs?
Well, Rizzo, like you said, he's had a big issue this year. He's hitting .236 right now. He's a career .265 hitter. So he's never been phenomenal at the plate, hitting 4 out of 5 every game. But he does hit when we need him to. And this year he hasn't really been doing that either. So he's got 12 home runs so far. Each of the last 4 years he's hit 30+. and it's not looking like he's going to get close to that number if he keeps sitting out like he has been because he hasn't been hitting well. He's got 59 RBIs. That's actually a pretty good number right now.
That's a good number for everybody but Anthony Rizzo, because this time last year he had almost 73 or 74. Like so that's a good number for everybody but Anthony Rizzo.
Right. On-base percentage is .333. He's a career .365. His slugging's at .393 this year. Career .479. So both of those numbers are down. Big, important numbers for a guy that we need to get on the bag, need to clear the bases out, and he's just not really hitting like he's supposed to.
He's usually reliable for Chicago, and like you said, Cale, with this shift, it's really messed with his psyche, and maybe he does need to take a Kyle Schwarber approach. Having two power hitter lefties on the same team. I mean, that definitely struggles when they're both in your lineup.
I'm telling you, with that exaggerated shift like that, you lay down a bunt, that's 2 hits. You got Schwarber and Rizzo.
Because they won't be able to run it if you consistently do it. They'll have to respect your ability to run.
There's one catcher that I would not bunt against on that exaggerated shift, and he just so happens to play for the Cubs, so they don't got to worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So,
I did have one stat on Rizzo. This year, he is -0.1 in the WAR category.
Whew!
I don't think he's ever been negative in his career. In fact, over his career, his WAR, wins above replacement, is 26.1.
This is killing him in that WAR category.
Yeah. That's an insane number, 26.1. And this year he is -0.1. Meaning that it's almost not worth him being in the game, because his replacement is playing better than he is.
Unless he can get his mentality back to
until he starts hitting again and starts. His defense hasn't really been an issue, but his offensive side of the ball, he's definitely been struggling, and you can see that just in that one stat in the WAR category. He's definitely been struggling. I don't know what he needs to fix it. Maybe it's not too big of an issue because we've got other guys stepping up. But I'd like to see him fix it soon and hope he can turn it around and pull together a good season.
If him and KB could switch their seasons around, we got a contender again. That's all we need is them two guys just to eat up.
Which they've still got half the season left to figure it out. It could very well happen.
It just sucks that the half of the season they have left is the most important half of the season of the year.
Absolutely. So it's figure it out sooner rather than later.
Hopefully right after the All-Star break.
Right. But this is something interesting that I want to touch on. We're still going to stay in the National League here, but the NL West, this has surprisingly over the past couple weeks become who's gonna make the playoffs, who's gonna win the division, who's gonna get that wild card spot, because we have the LA Dodgers took over first place from Arizona Diamondbacks
again
by half a game. Arizona gets really hot, they get really cold. It's on and off. And then we have the Colorado Rockies, really out of nowhere. I mean, they're 3 games back of the Dodgers right now at 48 and 45. Then you got the San Francisco Giants at 49 and 46, tied with Colorado for the 3 spot. Those guys are only 2.5 games back of the wild card spot in the NL. So, I mean, who out of these 4 teams, really 2 out of the 4, would you expect to come out of this mess right now that we've got in the NL West?
So earlier we were talking about teams kind of rising and falling as the playoff race heats up coming out of the break. The 2 teams I picked were the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. They're in first and second right now. The Dodgers a couple weeks ago were in 3rd place, almost 4th, not playing very well, and they have shot up. They're I think they're 10 games above 500 right now. They're
51 and 42. Yeah.
They absolutely shot up. They started playing like the Dodgers are supposed to. I think they will continue to rise. The Diamondbacks, like you said, hot and cold. I think they'll continue to. I don't think they're going to rise up like the Dodgers, but I think they'll coast out through the season and finish well above 500.
Well, this is real quick. An interesting fact on the Dodgers is they have a better record playing away from home than they do playing in their own stadium.
They've had that for the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
They've always had a better away record than they have a home record.
And you would expect that to kind of maybe even out at some point or even flop.
Yeah.
But it's just a reoccurring thing.
They've been one of the teams that has been known for that in the sport of baseball, to win on the road as opposed to winning at home, which you have to do
weird
both.
And hard.
Yeah. you got them going into Wrigley Field, and they can take
Right.
a game like there's no problem.
Yep.
I just don't understand how
Which is hard because the Cubs play really well at Wrigley.
They're the best home team in the league right now. I think. Don't
Yeah.
quote me on that.
It-
But
it's
I'll
pretty darn
fact check
close.
that.
But
they're like 34-10 or something at home.
LA can go into Wrigley Field and take a game like there's no tomorrow. I just don't understand it. They can go to the Bronx and take a game. So the fact that they can win on the road is what helps their chances. But they also haven't had a World Series ring yet. The Dodgers, the thing with them is that they've been so rendered with injuries this year that it's just absolutely killing them.
Boston has the best home record. By
Okay,
the way.
imagine that. But
32 and 12.
But anyway, they've been so hurt this year with Justin Turner being on the DL, Kershaw being on the DL, Seager's out for the year, Bellinger had a stint on the DL, and the fact that they can still hang with the D-backs, who's not a slouch this year. They've got a lot of good starting pitching with Greinke being their ace, and they got Paul Goldschmidt who can swing a heavy bat, and everybody knows that he has his whole career. So the fact that LA can stay right there with them is amazing. I still got Arizona winning that division though, so I just feel like they're going to heat up again and they're going to stay hot.
So would you also have Arizona and LA as the division winner and wild card?
I could have LA as the wild card, yeah, because you got to think of it this way: the Dodgers always find a way to get into the playoffs, and I just don't feel like they are going to have enough steam to beat the Diamondbacks outright in the division.
Well, and I think Colorado and San Francisco being so close now, Colorado kind of making a charge back after they fell off, San Francisco making a charge up there, I think they're going to get into such a dogfight that it's going to hurt both of them. And I think both of them are going to fall out. And that's why I went with LA and Arizona.
Here's my thing, though, is my take on the Rockies is I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to snag a wild card spot at this point, only because they have no problem winning on the road. As I'm just now checking, they have a better road record than the Dodgers do, and the Dodgers are 6 games above 500 in their away record.
Well, you can thank Charlie Blackmon and Nolan Arenado for that.
Yep.
Those
Right.
two guys are their core, their center.
Yeah, well, and they keep winning because they were in the 4 spot a couple weeks ago, and now that they're knocking on the door of the 2 seed, only 2.5 games back, if Arizona keeps the cold streaks going, I see the Rockies making it in with the 5 seed.
It's a very well possibility. Like I said earlier, baseball is baseball. So
Right.
like it, anything can change. It's not like the NBA or the NFL where you have a solid team that can just win. Like the Yankees right now trying to buy their championship, they may not even win it.